Howdy folks. So if you've known me for a bit, you know that I have this weird obsession and a weird way of glorifying death. No, it is not a product of me being an angsty teenager. It's sort of a meditative exercise for me. It's for me to meditate over death, on death. So what does meditation over death mean? Well, it starts with the idea or the philosophy of Memento Mori. What's Memento Mori, you might ask? So it's safe for me to assume that if you're watching this video, you're a biological creature that's mortal, right? Doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, a man or a woman, fat or thin, you are going to die one day. It's something that we cannot run away from. It seems like a bug in your system. It's coded into you. One day you are going to bite the dust. So Memento Mori is basically a philosophy that roughly translates to remember that you will die, or remember you must die. And Memento Mori is a philosophical theme that repeats over and over in so much literature, because if there's one thing philosophers love doing is discussing death, life and death basically, and what does all of this mean, and just contemplating what death could mean. Like, is it like we do not know, like nobody knows. So it was a very salient topic of discussion for the ancient philosophers, and this practice of celebration of the morbidity of death is not to induce fear, it's not to induce existential dread, it's in fact the opposite. It's to inspire, it's to prioritize, and it's to motivate. So let's dive into a little bit of the history of Memento Mori. So even though the essence of Memento Mori is quite old and ancient, the name seems to be of Roman origin. And there's this ritual that the Romans used to hold that really solidifies how salient the idea of death was to them, to remember that they were mortals, because these guys are some of the greatest emperors, generals, just tacticians, and like these guys have accumulated massive lands. Like these are basically gods in the eyes of like commoners, right? So it was very important for them to constantly revisit this idea. And so essentially what this ritual was that if, say, generals or emperors won a war or won a battle, they would be paraded through like massive masses of people. So they'll be carried on like these 4 horses and on like a massive chariot, and they will be basically glorified as gods themselves. So massive crowds of people would come and cheer for them. They would basically bow, kneel down, whatever it is. So it was essentially sort of cultist, but let's brush over that. So in a little cultist way, the general that won the war, that won the battle, was idolized by his troops and the commoners as sort of a divine figure. Not another fucking bug again. But what was interesting was the chariot that he was riding on also had another figure. And this figure was a slave that they used to pick from the massive tons that they had. He used to sit right next to the emperor or the general, whatever it is. The slave's only responsibility was to whisper in the ear of the general or the emperor. And what would he whisper? Look behind. Remember that you are immortal. Remember that you must die. Memento Mori, Memento Mori. So the slave was essentially what grounded the emperor or the general. So he was a constant reminder to the general or the emperor that his godlike status and image right now would not last. He was gonna die. Just like every single general and every single emperor that has ever lived, and every single slave, every single man, every single commoner has ever lived, he too will die. And this philosophical idea of Memento Mori is absolutely beautiful to me. I think we as humans today take almost everything for granted, especially life itself. And that's very evident from the high suicide rates, high mortality rates, because to us, we do not think of how unbelievable all of this is. Because if you look back on it, for over 3 billion years, you've had a line of ancestors like a line of ancestry that has never been broken for 3 billion years. You're the product of 3 billion years of evolution, of reproduction, of love, of mating, of your ancestors overcoming nature itself. And obviously, what do? We get caught up in our daily lives and we completely forget to be grateful for all of this. So this reminds me of a quote from Socrates. Socrates once said, "The one aim of philosophy, when practiced in a proper manner, is to practice for dying and for death." And this theme of memento mori and mortality and death keeps showing up again and again in Roman literature and Stoic philosophy, which I love. I absolutely love Stoic philosophy, and there are so many times where this same concept is repeated over and over again because it was that important for those people. The most advanced, the most powerful civilization to have ever existed was seemingly obsessed with one idea, that it's all going to come to an end one day. And it was a good reminder because it did. Their civilization did come to an end. But I'm sure, like, unlike all of us and all the people that you see today, they were prepared. They were prepared to face their eventual demise, whether it was their self or their civilization. Even though they tried, they knew that they could not outrun entropy and all the randomness in the world. So Seneca, in his moral letters to Lucilius, says, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." The one who puts the finishing touches on their life, each day is never short of time. And obviously, seemingly everyone's favorite Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, writes in his book Meditations, writes to himself, "You could live life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." What's baffling is this guy is an emperor. He's a Roman emperor. This guy wields so much power that he can basically destroy anything he wants with a snap of a finger, but he does not. He reminds himself of his mortality and his responsibilities and his duties to his people and to his civilization. And since death was in the forefront of his thoughts and his thinking, he not only managed to not let ego get to him, but he lived virtuously. He lived a very virtuous life. So the Stoics use memento mori to create priority, to prioritize and really make it crystal clear as to what's important for them and to prioritize what they want out of life. I just burped, sorry. They treated each day as a gift and they did not spend it in vain like us. I do not want to point fingers, let it be. Alright, enough romanticization of this philosophical idea. How do I use memento mori? How do I use this meditative practice to live a life of somewhat deep meaning, to me at least? So I use two methods. One is a very practical, guided, structured practice that gives me actual real life application, and another one is sort of a gratitude practice, you would say. Yeah, it's a gratitude practice. It really puts into perspective the things that we all take granted for, or at least I take granted for quite a lot. So I'll start off with the gratitude practice. It's very simple. Every night before you die, or like an hour before you head to bed, before you die, did I say before you die? I think I did. Jesus Christ, calm down, dude. Okay, every night before you head to bed, the only thing that it should be playing in your head is, I've got 1 hour to live. Once I hit the bed, I'm dead. Today is my last night. I'm gonna go to bed tonight, and this is gonna be the last day of my life. And basically spend that 1 hour reminiscing over everything you've done so far and everything you should be grateful for in your life. And you'll fall asleep like a baby, obviously, like you always do. But then once you wake up, regard that day or regard those moments when you first wake up. Just think of it like, okay, I have lived my life completely. This is a bonus. Every single thing that happens from here is a plus basically. I've completely lived my life. And I'm grateful for everything that's happened. And I'm grateful for every single thing, every single moment that comes from here onwards. And that has been such a beautiful gratitude-filled practice for me that so many things have been put into perspective in my life, and I've not gonna lie, I've been a bitch for most of my life, and it's really just beat some humility into me and like really fill me with like love and adoration and gratitude for everything and everyone around me. And number 2 is the structured guidance practice. So in the mornings, once I wake up, I do 2 things which are non-negotiable. One is journaling, one is meditation. And they're generally 2 separate things, 2 separate activities. But the days that I do this practice of Memento Mori, I tend to combine them. So meditation and journaling take place side by side. So I sit down and meditate about a few things, and then everything that I think about goes on paper. So here's what the prompt is. Today is going to be your last day. Write down whatever it is that you're going to be doing today, and just go live it like it's your last. And writing down is the most important part over here, because seeing it on paper like really crystallizes what you value in your life. And I did not realize that I did the practice today as well. I keep doing it like periodically. I don't do it every single day, but I did it today, and I did not realize that. So I was going through all the things, such as my mornings are very important, mornings are sacred. How I start my mornings is basically how my day progresses. It's basically a reflection of how my day would then move forward, things of that sort, right? Like generic stuff, obviously. But then eventually I got to this one place where I'm writing about like family and connection and like how grateful I am to be alive today. But then I realized that, hold up, I would really like to have kids. And it sounds super weird from a 21-year-old, but I've always thought like really wanted to have kids, and not right now, obviously. I'm not prepared for that. But I was like, hey, if today is my last day, would I not try to have kids? And I do not mean to like go and like bone a woman and get her pregnant. I'm talking about like, hey, maybe consider going to like say a sperm bank, or just shoot and scoot, right? And maybe I would like, once that the child grows up, whether it's a girl or a boy or anything in between. Jesus, cancel culture is really getting to me, man. Once a child grows up, all my books would be theirs. So everything that goes around here would somehow be reflected in them. So I would still continue to live on in them and in the people around me. So yeah, you just find out these weird things that you never generally think of on a day-to-day basis, I'm guessing. And that's where I'm going to end this video. This video was a little weird. I think I opened up a little more than I thought I would. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have watched this far, I shall see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. That was weird.